The final act of Death Stranding 2 on the beach is longer than some full games, but it begins when Sam has linked up the Southern Environmental Observatory to the chiral network. As he's about to leave, Higgs ambushes our protagonist, engulfing him with a burst of fire from his combat guitar. Sam is a repatriate, he can come back to life, but that doesn't matter to Higgs. He just wants to torture Sam, and his revival ability gives him the opportunity to do it over and over again. And unfortunately for Sam, the combat guitar's flamethrower is fueled by chiralium, meaning that every time he returns from the seam, which is full of the stuff, the flames are just going to reignite all over again. In other words, Higgs has Sam trapped in an endless, self-fulfilling death loop. While he's bouncing between life, agony, and death, Higgs taunts Sam with what he's learned so far about Lou's past. At this point in the game, Sam thinks that Lou is the child of Lucy, his former partner, and Neil Vanna, the man she cheated on him with, and the enemy porter he's been contending with in the Tar Anomaly segments. Higgs might not be able to kill Sam, but he does think he can break him, and between bringing up this heartbreaking revelation and the death loop, that's exactly what Higgs is trying to do here. As Sam tries to escape from Higgs, Fragile and Tomorrow arrive. We've seen Tomorrow's Tar abilities in bits and pieces throughout the game, but it's here that she fully unleashes them, rescuing Sam and kicking discount James Hetfield's ass. She also receives a hell of an assist from Tarman, who unleashes the DHV Magellan's now fully operational battle cannon. But during their fight, Higgs grabs a piece of Tomorrow's hair, which seems to spur some sort of revelation in our antagonist. Defeated for the time being, Higgs retreats, promising he'll be back later. Back at the observatory, Fragile and Tomorrow try to put out the flames engulfing Sam, when Rainey comes down from the Magellan to help. Earlier in the game, we learned that Rainey can control the timefall, the rain that produces rapid aging in the world of Death Stranding. But in a short distance around her, it's not timefall, it's corefall, a form of rain that rejuvenates people and items and restores them to their original state. She used this before the events of Death Stranding 2 to heal Fragile's skin, and she uses it here to save Sam. While Sam's recovering in his private room, the rest of the Magellan's crew discusses their next steps. There's only a few more spots in Australia that need to be hooked up to the chiral network, but it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort from Sam to clear these last few hurdles. With the end of their journey fast approaching, the crew decides it's time to come clean about a secret they've been hiding from him all along. When Sam wakes up, he grabs Lou's pod and shows it to Dollman, saying that everyone's favorite BB seems to be fading away. Dollman responds that if that's what Sam sees, then they're making progress. He then reveals that Lou was never in the pod. It's been empty the entire trip. Up until now, Sam had been under the belief that after her death, Lou had returned to him as a BT, a beach thing that continued to persist in her pod. But that's not the case. What Sam saw that day in Mexico was nothing but a grief-induced hallucination. Dollman explains that he's been the one operating the Audra deck, and was brought onto the team by Fragile to help Sam process Lou's death. To confirm this, Sam looks at the pictures he's taken of Fragile, Tomorrow, and Rainey, where he sees that Lou's pod was indeed empty even back then. Now aware of the truth, Sam finally sees the pod as it really is, empty and damaged. Dollman goes on to say that the team decided not to dispute what Sam saw, and instead give him the support he needed to properly come to terms with this loss. This touches on one of the major themes of Death Stranding 2. If the first game was all about rebuilding the connections between people, then the second game is all about forging lasting bonds, communities that lift up their friends when they're down and stand behind them when the going gets tough. It might seem counterintuitive to that goal to hide the truth from Sam, but they wanted to give him time to accept that Lou was indeed gone, and a mission to occupy him along the way. It reminds me, in some ways, of what a coworker once told me when he came back to work shortly after the sudden loss of a family member. Having something to focus on is a relief from the pain. Fragile then comes into the room and provides her perspective on this reveal, saying that they never wanted to deceive Sam, only help him move forward. After Lou's death, Sam was broken. She wasn't just going to dismiss what he saw. Sam expresses that he feels alone again, and as he looks down at the broken pod, he seems every bit like the old Sam, the Sam we met at the beginning of Death Stranding 1, who struggled to make attachments and bond with anyone. In this moment, holding the last remnants of the child who helped him make connections again, he surely feels like it was all for nothing. But Fragile tells him that death can't separate him from anyone. Not from Lou, not from the crew of the Magellan. He's got them in his corner, and that's never going to change. The twist that Lou is truly dead and hasn't been in the pod all along isn't all that shocking. The BT explanation never really made much sense to me. There were just too many holes in that line of thinking, and multiple characters alluded to the fact that they knew Sam was just seeing what he wanted to see throughout the game. But as someone who loved the first game because of the connection Sam built with Lou, I kept looking for reasons to hope that she was still alive in some form. It helps that the lore of Death Stranding provides room for such theories. Personally, I had suspected that there were some Ha and Ka shenanigans going on here, and that Lou's Ha, her body, had died, while her soul, her Ka, returned to the pod. It's heartbreaking to see Sam, who went from a reluctant father to a devoted dad, struggle with the loss of his child. In some ways, I think the player's willingness to believe that there was a lore explanation for Lou's presence in the pod, like I did, and that Sam wasn't just seeing things, helps counteract the fact that it isn't necessarily a surprise. We, like Sam, wanted to believe that Lou was still there, in some way, shape, or form. And like Sam, in this moment, we're left to face the truth and accept the tragic reality that Lou is gone. Stricken with grief, Sam returns to his work. This time he's tasked with picking up a network stabilizer at Hartman's lab and delivering it to the North Distribution Center. The Magellan needs to stay at the Southern Environmental Observatory to keep it protected, so it can't help Sam, meaning that he'll have to take the long way there. It's one of those great late-game missions that both Death Stranding games do so well, where you have to trek across a whole chunk of the map using all the tools at your disposal and everything everyone else built to get to your destination. And it's exciting, for me anyway, to see the progress the community has made on things like roads and bridges, and to have a reason to dive deep into the game's huge toolbox. After completing the delivery, there's another tar anomaly, one that Dollman bills as our last confrontation with Neil. This time, when Sam goes out to confront it, it's a tar version of Lucy that draws him in. In the segment that follows, Sam battles with Neil and his ghost soldiers in a Mexican subway system. There are some great anti-gravity elements to this fight, as Neil will often stand upside down on the ceiling to shoot down at us. It's an epic boss battle. I'm not sure that Neil's fights are as strong as Cliff's from the first game, but they're pretty damn good. Halfway through the battle, Sam receives a vision of Neil's past. When he was a boy in Mexico, the city he lived in came under attack by some giant BTs, calling to mind the scenery of our first fight with him. While searching for his parents, the symbol from his pendant gets burned into his hand. Eventually, a young girl finds him. She comforts him, and together they try to escape the chaos. But it's not long before artillery fire lands close by, knocking them both out. When Neil wakes up, the girl is trapped under debris. He tries to help her, and in the process, the still burning symbol from his own hand gets burned into hers. Before he can pull her free, his parents call out to him, and rather than continuing to aid his newfound friend, he leaves to rejoin them. This sets up Neil as a character with a deep regret. This girl was there for him when he was terrified in this burning cityscape, but rather than help her in her time of need, he returned to his parents. When the flashback is over, we see Neil look down at the pendant, which he still wears, along with a small coffin-shaped object he's attached to the same chain. Sam pursues Neil, leading to a duel between the two men in the subway car. After defeating him again, debris falls down on Neil. Sam rescues him, and thus does exactly what Neil failed to do for the little girl all those years ago. Neil, now back in his street clothes, tells Sam that he tried to keep them, quote, safe. Who he's talking about isn't clear just yet, and then hands Sam both his pendant and the small coffin-shaped object, before telling him to keep Lou safe. It's very much the Neil equivalent of Cliff's last moment with Sam in Death Stranding 1. In both scenes, the defeated enemy hands Sam something on a chain, and says something cryptic that won't make sense until later on. Desperate for more information, Sam touches Neil on the shoulder, kicking off another series of flashbacks. We see Neil meet with Lucy, Sam's former partner, who's working as a therapist for Bridges. At one point, Neil tries to smoke a cigarette, which is basically the capstone of countless Solid Snake references that make up his character. In any case, at the end of their meeting, Lucy recognizes Neil, revealing that she was the little girl he left behind in Mexico. She shows him the burn mark on her hand to confirm this, and then lashes out at him physically. And as he calms her down, it's clear that a different type of tension altogether is about to arise between these two reunited souls. Next, we see Neil come into conflict with the director from Bridges, and refuse to keep doing the company's dirty work. Back with Lucy, he breaks down, and reveals what he's been doing for them. He's been bringing brain-dead pregnant women over from Mexico so they can be used to create bridge babies, the ones that the company intended to use as part of their initial plan to create the chiral network. Following this confession, it seems that their relationship blossoms. We see Neil and Lucy together at night, with her wearing his scarf as they try to figure out who's keeping an eye on her from a car outside the building. In the flashback's final scene, Lucy breaks up with Neil. She reveals that she's pregnant with Sam's child, not Neil's. She's certain it's Sam's. It has the DNA of a repatriate, meaning that the baby has to be his. Neil argues with her, but Lucy is undeterred, saying that she loves Sam and that the affair has to end. In response, Neil says that he doesn't care if she's carrying someone else's child, and gives her the pendant that has come to symbolize the connection between them. He then leaves the room, ending the flashback, and Sam exits the tar anomaly, now in possession of the pendant and the small coffin-shaped object. Before we move on, there's definitely an extended Kojima-style metaphor going on here about Neil, who so resembles the protagonist of Metal Gear Solid, which Kojima was forced to leave in the hands of Konami, fighting with the protagonist of his new series over the fate of a baby and a woman they both love. Art is always a reflection of the artist, and in a game about grieving and moving on, it's hard for me not to think that Kojima isn't expressing some of that here himself in the story of Death Stranding 2. But a full discussion on this topic will have to wait for another time. Back on the Magellan, Fragile visits Sam. She explains that the small coffin-shaped object is actually a memory drive. So hey, if you're one of those people who still keeps all their important documents on a flash drive, no worries. Apparently they can survive the post-apocalypse and tar anomalies. Anyway, Fragile explains that the memory drive contains an apology from Lucy, and confirmation that Lou was indeed Sam's child. She knew that if Bridges found out that Sam, the world's first BB and a repatriate, had a child, then they would kidnap it for testing, to turn into a lab rat for their experiments. Lucy didn't want that for Lou, so she hid the truth from everyone, and told the world that the child was Neil's. It's a messy, complicated story, but it really does speak to the larger themes of Death Stranding 2. People are fallible, we fuck up, we do stupid shit, and far too often hurt the people we love the most. But beneath it all, we are capable of doing acts of tremendous good, like delivering a long-buried truth to a former romantic rival in spite of the odds. For Sam, there's surely a bittersweet bent to this news. Yes, Lou was his child, the child he thought he'd never have, but she's still gone, and nothing can bring her back. But the game doesn't give Sam much time to linger on this, as the Magellan's alarm goes off, and Tarman radios into Sam's private room. Ghost mechs are on their doorstep, stretching all the way to Terminal Fort Knott. If they're not dealt with soon, they could cripple the entire chiral network across all of Australia. Up on the bridge, Sam meets with the rest of the Magellan's crew. There, the mysterious Charlie tells them that they're in the endgame now, within sight of linking the entire continent to the chiral network. Together, they devise their plan of action. Sam will advance on foot to connect the two way stations between them and Terminal Fort Knott, while the rest of the crew operates different parts of the Magellan. Specifically, Tarman will pilot it, as always, while Rainey handles the radar, Hartman controls the cannon, and Tomorrow operates the miniguns. It's fitting that Sam, still reeling from the news about Lou's death, which left him feeling isolated and alone, is thrust into a mission that features every member of his wide-ranging team. Before departing, he has an emotional moment with Fragile, where she reminds him of how far he's come. This journey was supposed to give him the strength to keep on keeping on, and he's managed to do that. Sam tries to reach out to her, but before he can, the elevator door closes. Before Sam receives his traditional mission order, he'll get a call from the president, who's just as mysterious as Charlie. He informs Sam that by making this last network connection, 3 plate gates should open. This has been the official government reason for Sam's trip, the macro, big picture goal that goes beyond Sam's personal odyssey. The UCA, the United States of America, wants to open plate gates, like the one that brought Sam here to Australia, to all the other continents, so they can fully unite Earth the way it was before the Death Stranding. By linking Australia to the chiral network, they believe gates to Africa, Europe, and Asia will be created. The president also mentions that he's completed his investigation into Higgs and APAC, the automated public assistance company, which now effectively runs the UCA as a big company, which is why the president isn't an elected official, but instead a corporate suit. Previously, he had discovered evidence of a link between Higgs, APAC at large, and suspected that Charlie might have been implicated as well. The president promises to reveal what he's learned about all of this when Sam reaches Terminal Fort Knott. The ensuing mission is not only my favorite in all of Death Stranding 2, but honestly one of my favorite video game quests of all time. Sam's battle with the Ghost Mechs, with the support of the Magellan behind him, is a badass spectacle unlike any other. As I fired on the mechs with my arsenal of weaponry and called down airstrikes from the Magellan, I couldn't help but think that this is what the final push to the beam should have felt like in Mass Effect 3. The whole team comes together to support Sam, especially Tomorrow, whose effective minigunning is mentioned frequently over the radio. You'll see it in action too, she really helps out. Once you link the two way stations, the Magellan will land, offering you a chance to regroup and resupply. You should absolutely do this, if for no other reason than to pop some container spray on the terminal you're carrying, which you need to link up Terminal Fort Knot to the Chiral network. It can take some serious damage during the battle, and with the Ghost Mech base and a narrow bridge between you and victory, it's going to take some more. After fighting his way through the base and reaching the bridge, Sam will be surrounded by Ghost Mechs, at which point the same Red Samurai who saved him back at the factory will come to his aid again, taking out the mechs with his katana. He'll then unzip his hood to reveal that he's actually Deadman. Well, not exactly Deadman, but part of him. It's just Deadman's body, his Ha. As we'll learn later, sometimes Ha's can stay alive even after their Ka has left them, explaining how he was able to do this. To cover Sam's advance, Red Samurai Deadman cuts the bridge in half lightsaber style, and then reminds Sam that he's living proof that death cannot tear them apart. It's a kick-ass moment, and if Kojima decides to make a Death Stranding 3, then he better make that katana a usable weapon, because it sure looks like it'd be fun to play around with. Though Sam presses on, he's eventually attacked by Higgs' giant octopus mech once again. Deal with it the same way as before. Hit the weak spots, and it'll go down quickly. Finally, inside Terminal Fort Knot, Higgs, ever the asshole, shows up. But this time, the whole Magellan is there to support Sam, and he gets Darth Mauled by the ship's cannon. Fragile comes out to exact some personalized revenge, but before she can do so, Higgs asks her if what he did to her still hurts. As far as the player can tell, he's talking about the murder of Lou, but this line will take on a far different meaning later on. Fragile then picks up his combat guitar and turns it on him, setting fire to Dollar Store Kirk Hammett and bashing him with the weapon's bladed end. All the while, he repeats part of Fragile's catchphrase, which will also take on a deeper context down the line. Once he's finally beaten, a single crab will crawl from out of his head. With that, Sam and Fragile return to the Magellan. Back on board, it's all fanfare for a few minutes. The Chiral network now stretches across Australia. The crew has finally done what they set out to do when they arrived here. But the celebration doesn't last long, as the president summons Sam up to the bridge to discuss what he mentioned earlier. There, Sam will find the other members of the crew incapacitated, as the president kicks off one of those mask-off speeches that Kojima has been known for ever since the final act of Metal Gear Solid 2. In a game full of Metal Gear callbacks, this one is almost as strong as Neil's appearance as Stranded Snake. The president reveals that he was behind Higgs and his Ghost Mech army, saying that Sam and the Magellan needed an antagonist to rally against to complete their work. He also begins to hint at his true nature. When Sam questions if he's truly human, the same crabs that crawled out of Higgs' head crawl all over his body. A small one even comes out of his mouth. Crab President goes on to explain that all of this, the mission, Higgs, even Sam's involvement, was part of an equation APAS, the Automated Porter Assistance System, came up with to solve the Death Stranding. The Death Stranding, in their estimation, is the result of continued human evolution. The more humans grow and change, the more likely it is that the Death Stranding will trigger, and more extinction entities will be created to bring about humanity's downfall. And the catalyst for all this growth and change, in APAS's view, is migration. When people move to new places and form new communities, they cease to be who they once were, and develop further. Thus, APAS believes that by limiting human movement and keeping human interaction tied to the chiral network, in other words, fully online and without face-to-face interaction, humanity will stagnate, ensuring that they never evolve to the point where the Death Stranding has to happen again. Eventually, he does explain who he really is. He's an amalgamation of 4,000 people who died in a void out between the events of Death Stranding 1 and Death Stranding 2, and merged together with the APAS servers, which were located on a beach, to become a singular entity. One of the people included in the President is Elder, a character who you might remember from the first game. He's quite the deep cut. It took me a while to remember who he was myself. Eventually, he'll take Sam to the server on the beach, and further explain that his plan is to keep humanity in a state of stagnation while protecting their status as the planet's apex predators. And over time, humans will die and move on to the beach, providing them an existence that supersedes the fear of extinction. That's obviously a lot to take in, but since I mentioned Mass Effect earlier, I'll bring it up again to make the comparison that the President is sort of a reverse Reaper. He thinks that by preventing humanity's continued evolution, he can circumvent their extinction. He thinks that the key is to keep them stuck in place rather than killing them off to start the cycle anew. He doesn't want that cycle to happen at all. Thematically, what Kojima is suggesting here gets at the heart of what we all learned firsthand during the pandemic, and why he realized he needed to change the game's plot as a result of it. The internet, or in this case the chiral network, is a beautiful thing in the way it keeps us connected, but it's no substitute for face-to-face interaction. By traveling to new places and meeting new people, building bonds of friendship with folks who are different from us, we learn, we grow, and we change. We need that in our lives. Humanity needs that, but the president wants to take all of that away. Sam saw the importance of this himself on his current journey. It was the Magellan's crew and their support that helped him overcome Lou's death. In the world the president envisions, such a thing never could have happened. Once the president is finished with his monologue, Charlie shows up, not just as a head, but in full mannequin form to do an interpretive dance. I'm not kidding, that's exactly what happens here. I'm not going to try and pretend that this has some sort of deeper meaning, aside from what Charlie will say when he's done, that he's not a puppet, no one's pulling his strings, and he's not about to be controlled by anyone or anything, especially not an AI, which is essentially what the president is. This scene, much like the Mario and Princess Peach comment in Death Stranding 1, is proof of the fearless creativity of Kojima and his entire team. Say what you will about them, but the Kojima Productions crew doesn't give a fuck. They're gonna do what they want, mood and tone be damned. In a world full of fearful creators, they are always going to unapologetically be themselves, and that's why I started playing their latest masterpiece at midnight the night it was released. There's beauty and boldness and bravery in art, and there are few better places to find it than Kojima Productions. After the dance number, Charlie reveals that he doesn't just have Die Hardman's voice, he is Die Hardman. He's been on the ship all along. In fact, though DHV does stand for Deep Tar Hunting Vessel, it also stands for Die Hardman's Vessel. Much like the Lou reveal, it's not all that shocking, but Die Hardman's over-the-top antics and infectious personality do make it pretty damn satisfying. In response to the president's monologue, Die Hardman delivers one of his own, advocating for the importance of human connection, of movement and migration, of traveling across an interconnected globe. That was the purpose of Sam's first mission across America, after all, and now he aims to do it on a larger scale. They can't let the fear of anything get in the way of the beauty of human nature, not even the fear of the Death Stranding. He also explains how he caught on to APAS's plans and manipulated them with the help of Lochner. As he speaks, he wakes up Sam's comrades one by one, then links the North American continent to Australia as one final flex on the president before sending him back to his beach. He's able to do this because all along, when the president thought Sam was linking up Australia to the chiral network, and by extension the APAS servers, Lochner's new Cupid was actually setting the stage so Die Hardman could disconnect the APAS servers from the network permanently in one fell swoop. It's a fundamental rejection of the kind of terrified control that the president and APAS represents, and a full-throated embrace of the authentic, interconnected humanity that Sam has forged here in Australia with the Magellan's crew. Full-throated, authentic humanity, to match Kojima Productions' full-throated, authentic creativity, if you will. Much like the president's initial monologue, this is another one of Kojima's classic storytelling techniques. Oftentimes, his narratives are like Russian dolls. There is always another layer of deception. APAS thought they were in control, but they were dancing to Die Hardman's tune all along. And if you thought that was the end of the double-crossing and layers of deception, then hold on to your cupids, because we're just getting started. With the crew back together and the president dealt with, it seems like bright days are ahead for Sam and company. But just like he always does, Higgs rears his ugly head and fucks it all up. Now remotely controlling Red Samurai all the way from the beach, he captures Tomorrow in the same type of cocoon we found her in at the beginning of the game, and then reveals that he's been puppeteering this whole thing all along in order to get revenge on Amelie, the extinction entity who turned her back on the plan to commence the Last Stranding at the end of the first game. In order to do this, he needs to reach her beach, and in order to reach her beach, he needs someone with a connection to her. And the person with such a connection to Amelie is Tomorrow, the new extinction entity. The genes of her mother, Amelie, he says, matched up perfectly with the genes of her father. When Sam still doesn't get it, Higgs just comes out with it, revealing that Sam is Tomorrow's father. He then vanishes through the tar, leaving the group to make sense of all this. At the time, based on the information available to them, they conclude that Tomorrow must have been a child Amelie conceived in secret through artificial insemination. She did have access to Sam's DNA through Bridges, and even though he and Amelie had a weird relationship, it was never sexual, so it's the best explanation they've got at this point. And if you're keeping track of all the parentage reveals, this means that Sam now thinks he's had 2 children that he knew nothing about, Lou with Lucy and Tamara with Amelie. He already lost one of them, and now Higgs has taken the other. No matter who her mother is or how she came to be, Tamara is still a part of the group, so they devise a plan to get her back. Fragile offers to jump them to the beach, but there's a problem. She's been diagnosed with jump shock, which has prevented her from jumping throughout the game. But with the help of every Doom sufferer on the ship, those with a special genetic connection to the other side, which is basically everyone on the ship, they can help support her jump and give her the best chance of success. Still, in order to reach the specific beach Higgs fled to, Fragile needs something with a strong connection to Amelie. Thus, Sam is sent on one final delivery mission, back to his shelter in Mexico, where he has plenty of objects that connect him and Amelie. The mission is similar to the one that started at Hartman's lab from earlier, and is essentially identical to the last mission from Death Stranding 1, that you need to make your way across the entire continent, the whole map, from end to end, using your tools and the tools crafted by others. But this time around, you've got a special gift, Higgs's combat guitar. It's an awesome weapon, super powerful, and fueled by chiral crystals, so hopefully you've been collecting those at every opportunity throughout the game. Just keep in mind that using your combat guitar on humans will kill them and trigger a void out, so be careful who you fire it at. This is also a great opportunity to build something for your fellow man, to rhyme with the themes of the game by crafting something that'll benefit everyone else who plays Death Stranding 2 in the years to come. As excited as you probably are to see the game's last couple of hours, take it slow, enjoy the excellent music, and build a bridge, a zip line, or leave a ladder in a perfect place. When Sam returns to Mexico, the situation is dire. The sky has become something of a sea, and timefall is descending rapidly. If he doesn't hurry up, it looks like the last stranding is really going to happen. To reach Sam's shelter, you'll need to fight through 2 giant BTs. The first looks like one of those finger creepers from Elden Ring, and the second is a crab version of Higgs' octopus mech that can be brought down through similar means. Both are a great opportunity to have some fun with the combat guitar, and to use the BT Pokeball you received earlier in the game, if you haven't already. Along the way, you'll also receive some creepy messages on the Strand social service network showing off pictures of Sam and Lou. Eventually, it's revealed that Higgs has been sending them to taunt our protagonist. When Sam returns to the shelter, he finds it in pristine condition, the way it was when he started his latest adventure. As he looks around for something connected to Amelie, he'll have flashbacks to his days with Lou, all of which really tug at your heartstrings and serve as a reminder of the grief that's brought us to this point. The item with a connection to Amelie that Sam ends up settling on is the picture of him, pregnant Lucy, and Bridget. For those unfamiliar with the first game, Bridget is the former president of the UCA, who adopted Sam when he was young. She's also Amelie's Ha, her body, which makes this speculation about Tamara being Sam's child with Amelie especially weird. Once Sam brings it onto the Magellan's Bridge, the group straps in to make the jump to the beach. As they close their eyes and focus in preparation, Sam and Fragile embrace and kiss beneath her umbrella. As explained earlier by Tarman, in order for this jump to work, his bond with Fragile will need to be unbreakable, and that's what we're seeing here. After 2 games of tension, he's finally opening up to her. Though it might seem like an odd time for a makeout scene, think, again, of the game's themes of the importance of human connection, of seeing each other face to face. Intimacy, love, and relationships can only develop properly with the help of these initial bonds, so it's appropriate that such actions allow the group, united as one, to jump to the beach. And from a character development perspective, this is a huge moment for Sam. He's a demisexual, as confirmed by Kojima, meaning that he needs to build an emotional attachment to potential partners before he can have a sexual attraction towards them. And he has asymphophobia, the fear of being touched. This kiss with Fragile has been a long time coming, but it's also something he was either unable to do or too fearful to do across 2 games and 2 continent-spanning odysseys. And he's doing it while holding a picture of Lucy and Amelie, 2 women who not only betrayed him, but who he thinks at this point had children with him without his knowledge. This is a complete step forward for Sam, a deep, intimate connection with another person unlike any other we've seen from him thus far, and it's the kind of progress he needs to make in order to defeat Higgs and save tomorrow. Thanks to Fragile and Sam's bond and the crew's united dooms, the jump is successful. The beach Higgs fled to is, unsurprisingly, where the APAS servers were stored, and in the sky behind them, he's got Tomorrow. In an attempt to trigger the Last Stranding, he's using her to slice open a hole into Amelie's beach. Meanwhile, back on the Magellan, Fragile doesn't wake up at first. The jump took a lot out of her, but she does come to shortly thereafter. With multiple giant BTs approaching, the crew opts to battle them from the ship, while Sam looks for Higgs and Tomorrow on foot. They suggest Sam take the combat guitar with him. The beach is full of chiralium, so it won't need to run on ammo here. While Sam is scouting out the beach, the crew takes out the head of one of the giant BTs, and with the help of Heartman and Deadman, integrate it into the Magellan systems, allowing them to fight these big guys on their level. It's not long before Sam finds Higgs, and a 3-phase boss battle ensues. In the first phase, he's still suited up in the Red Samurai outfit, and Sam will need to use the bladed edge of the combat guitar to fight him. He uses his katana like a lightsaber to block any and all incoming fire. Once he's defeated, he'll flee to the servers. If you saw this scenery earlier and thought, wow, that'd be a great place for a boss battle, congrats, you were right. But before we get there, Higgs delivers a monologue where he reveals how lonely he felt after he was abandoned on the beach at the end of the first game, how he wandered for what seemed like 1,000 years before finally succumbing to oblivion and taking his own life. It was then that the amalgamated souls of APAS enlisted him to support their plans, which he used to further his own goals, the Last Stranding, total annihilation for all of mankind. This diatribe cements Higgs as the true antithesis of Sam. Sam started the last game in isolation, but developed deeper connections that gave him a strong bond with mankind, while Higgs ended the last game in isolation, and rather than find solace or humanity, he was driven mad by it. Higgs then leaps down from one of the servers and draws his double guitar, kicking off Phase 2. Phase 2 is basically a battle of two 40k noise marines, as Sam and Higgs shoot at each other amidst the servers of the beach. If you find yourself low on health during this phase, or the previous one, and you probably will, given that you won't have blood bags with you for this mission, just pop some cryptobiotes, which you can find all over the area. They're a fine substitute. After knocking out his health bar, Higgs retreats to the top of a stone BT hand to observe his handiwork. He laments Amelie's betrayal in the previous game, how she chose Sam and humanity over him in wanton destruction. But he says he's found a new girl to bring forth his dreams, Tomorrow, the new extinction entity. She remains unconscious in her cocoon, but the wall between this beach and Amelie's is beginning to crumble, meaning that the Last Stranding is fast approaching. Sam joins Higgs atop the stone BT hand, and the boss fight's third phase begins. It's classic Kojima. A pair of shirtless dudes duking it out in an over-the-top boss battle. It's a clear callback to Metal Gear Solid 1, where Solid Snake fought Liquid Snake atop Metal Gear Rex, and Metal Gear Solid 4, where Snake and Liquid Ocelot had a pro wrestling match on the aircraft carrier. Both characters get fighting game style health bars, and they duel with the bladed edges of their combat guitars, wielding them like true axes. It's metal as fuck, and somewhere I can guarantee you that Eddie Riggs is mighty jealous of everything that's happening here. Sam wins the most heavy metal boss battle of all time, but it still seems that all is lost, as Tomorrow is drawn into the inferno of the Last Stranding from Amelie's beach. But the gateway to her beach is sealed up right away, confusing both our protagonist and his arch-nemesis. It's then that a giant baby appears, and not just any baby, but Baby Lou. Higgs tries to calm Lou down with his theme song, which he's been playing throughout the game here and there, but Lou isn't having any of that shit, and she gobbles him right up. She then gives Sam a big thumbs up, sprouts a pair of BT-style wings, and flies away. It's impossible to explain all of this at the moment. It requires some revelations from down the line, so we'll get back to the giant Baby Lou and the prevention of the Last Stranding in a few minutes. Back down on the shore of the beach, Amelie arrives, and with her, Fragile, cradling Baby Lou, who she puts down in front of Sam. If you recall from the first game, Amelie had made the decision to remain on her beach in perpetuity, to suffer in isolation for humanity's sake in order to prevent the Last Stranding. So this is actually her here. She's not just a vision or something along those lines. She then hugs Sam and pushes him into the waters of the beach. What follows is a mirror image of the way the game began. Sam wakes up on a mountain range in Mexico with Baby Lou in her carrier, but the scenery is cold and snowy this time around. When Sam arrives at where his shelter should be, he sees not it, but the Magellan, and is then sent back to the beach, and finds Tomorrow where Lou once was. Relieved as he certainly is to have Tomorrow back, Sam is no doubt feeling Lou's loss again in this moment. He thought he had her back too, but she appears to be gone once more. But the tragic loss of those connected to Sam doesn't end there. Back on the Magellan's Bridge, it's revealed that Fragile is dead, and has been for some time. At the beginning of the game, Higgs didn't actually shoot Lou, he shot Fragile. As I said earlier, Kojima's twists aren't always surprising, but this one truly is. All along, our care for Lou and grief over her death served as an effective misdirection for what really happened. Lou was an accessory to Higgs. Revenge against Fragile, Sam, and Amelie was always his primary goal. As explained by Die Hardman, she revealed this to everyone privately after making the jump to the beach. She didn't want Sam to know, for fear that losing yet another person he built a bond with would shatter him right before his final battle with Higgs. The news, of course, does break Sam. In a matter of minutes, he's lost Amelie again, he's lost Lou again, and now he's lost Fragile, someone it took 2 games and 2 arduous adventures to build an unbreakable connection with. What is the path forward for him now? What future does he truly have? It's then that Fragile's Ka, her soul, visits Sam to explain all of this herself. When Higgs shot her, her Ka and her Ha were separated instantly, but the jump to the realm of the dead was successful, not because of her, but because of Lou. Lou got them out of there, leaving Fragile's body, her Ha, behind in the real world, while her Ka ventured to the realm of the dead with Lou. Desperate for a way to keep Lou safe, she entrusted her to the lost souls of the realm. She explains that after Sam rescued her Ha at the beginning of the game, she forgot all of this, aside from the fact that she was dead, and thus she decided to spend her remaining time on this earth with the man she built a true connection with. When they returned to the beach, it triggered her memory, at which point she told the rest of the crew privately. She then apologizes that Sam never got to see Lou grow up, makes him promise to make the best of his future with her, and then tells him that he will never be alone, before departing to the realm of the dead. All of this is hard to grasp in the moment. Lou's gone again. How can he make the best of his future with her if she's not around? And if Fragile left Lou in the realm of the dead, then where the hell is she now? Confused more than ever before and still struggling with loss after loss, Sam returns to the bridge with Lou's old BB pod in hand. Together, the team unites to make the jump back to Australia. Fragile might not be with them, but because they've got so many doom sufferers on board and have found the right spot on the beach, they're confident they can pull it off. As they're in the process of making the jump, Tomorrow, still unconscious from when Sam found her on the beach, makes contact with the soul of Neil Vana, who receives a vision of the last of his memories. Just as Fragile turned to unexpected allies to protect Lou, it turns out Lucy did the same thing when she was pregnant with Lou, and recruited her former lover, Neil, to help protect her. She knows at this point that Bridges wants Lou, and that the initial plan for her was to be the sacrificial BB that would bring the entire UCA onto the chiral network. It's here that she devises her plan to tell everyone that Lou is Neil's baby, not Sam's. Neil initially refuses to play along with her, but after she takes him by the hand, and he looks down at the burn mark that bonded them together all those years ago, he agrees. He failed to rescue her on the night they met, and it led to lifelong regret. He's not going to let that happen again. Neil suggests that they flee to Mexico, and they make plans to leave as soon as possible. She also hands him the coffin-shaped memory drive, explaining how it ended up in Neil's possession. Days later, as they're trying to escape, Bridges' agents descend on the duo, and despite their best efforts, they're not buying the whole daddy deception angle. They know Lou is Sam's baby, and they're not about to let the child of a repatriate slip out of their grasp. With guns fixed on them, Neil draws his own pistol, but in the chaos, one of the Bridges agents from down the hall shoots at Neil, but he ends up hitting Lucy instead. Neil flees with Lucy into a back room, where the Bridges official offers him a deal. Allow them to take the child, and Bridges' doctors will save Lucy's life. Before Neil can say anything else, Lucy calls out to him. While he's distracted, the Bridges official lets the agents into the room, and they kill Neil. Shortly thereafter, we see a first-person view from Neil's corpse, and hear 2 doctors talk about how BB-00, aka Lou, was extracted from Lucy's body and taken to a secure facility. This ties back to a plot point mentioned earlier in the game. Apparently, there were some BB naming and labeling shenanigans going on over at Bridges. In the first game, Lou's serial number was BB-28, but it turns out that was just a cover-up. That serial number belonged to an entirely different Bridge baby that was decommissioned, and ended up becoming Lou's serial number after she was brought back from storage. When Sam looked inside Lou's pod at the mother's facility, he did get a glimpse at Lou's true original serial number, BB-00. This removes any lingering doubt, amidst all these twists and turns, that Lou was indeed Lucy and Sam's baby. Naturally, the full truth is starting to come together at this point, And honestly, it has been for a while now, but it will be a bit longer before Kojima lays it all out for us. In any case, as the coroners are examining Neil's body, they realize that he's going into necrosis faster than he should be. They rush to get the corpse disposal team, but they're too late, and a void out blows up both the bridge's facility and the surrounding city. That means that when things really went to shit in the world of Death Stranding, all stems back to this incident, to these stupid Bridges agents shooting Neil because they were so desperate to get Lou and failing to properly dispose of his corpse. But it wasn't just when things went to shit in the world of Death Stranding, it was when things went to shit in Sam's world as well. As Neil explodes, we drift through the hospital and see Sam visit Lucy's body. He lifts up the cloth covering her, begins to cry, and takes a moment to hold her hand. He then picks her up and leaves the hospital, but before he can get anywhere, the void out engulfs him. We've been hearing since the first game that Sam was there for the void out that started it all. This is that moment. Sam, Lucy, Neil, and Lou were all tied up in this singular event, and it changed everything. But still, there are so many questions. Where is Lou now, and how does tomorrow fit into all of this? We then cut to Lou, on the ground in the realm of the dead. Fragile's Ka picks up Lou, wraps her in a blanket, and entrusts her to the souls of the realm of the dead. Time flows differently over there, as other characters have explained throughout the game, and thus Lou's blanket becomes a cocoon. She rapidly ages, becoming Tomorrow. So BB00 is Lou, and Lou is Tomorrow. She's been with Sam all along, right there on the Magellan. Much as I've said throughout this video, this is one of those Kojima twists that isn't all that surprising, but remains incredibly satisfying. Fans have speculated that Tomorrow was adult Lou from the very first trailers for Death Stranding 2. It also helps that Kojima said, flat out, that if Elle Fanning didn't agree to play the character, then he would have needed to change the entire story of the game. Plus, she sings on the damn soundtrack, which is a pretty good hint at her importance. And to top it all off, the title of Death Stranding 1's last mission was Tomorrow is in Your Hands, meaning that when Sam broke Lou out of the pod, he was literally holding Tomorrow in his hands. In a game full of characters with on-the-nose names like Heartman, Deadman, and Rainey, it just checked out that Kojima would do something similar here. All of that is meta stuff, of course, but the hints within the narrative were there too. This was the only explanation that made sense. As soon as we learned that Sam was the father of Lucy's child, it was clear to me that that child had to be Lou. And when Higgs confirmed my suspicions about Tomorrow, it was obvious that Tomorrow had to be Lou. The only question in my mind was how we were going to get there. And Kojima and his team sure as hell provided us with an amazing journey to bring us this heartwarming revelation. If these two Death Stranding games have taught us anything, it really is that it's the journey that counts, even if the destination is somewhat predictable. This also explains Tomorrow's juvenile mindset early on in the game. She evolved straight from a toddler to an adult woman. She had to go through a crash course childhood and a rebellious teenage years in a matter of days. Circling back to the events on the beach, we can now finally sort through what happened there. I think Higgs was wrong about Lou/Tomorrow being an extinction entity. Whether he thought Lou was Amelie's baby or Lucy's baby isn't perfectly clear to me, but I do think he was wrong about the EE part. Anyway, I suspect that what we see happening on the A-Pass beach is that he's forcing Tomorrow to use her powers, we know she can jump, and his connection to Amelie, through Amelie's Kipu, to slice a hole into Amelie's beach. As for the giant baby Lou, my best guess is that it's just a form that Amelie's beach, combined with the fact that Tomorrow was back in her cocoon, turned her into. When Fragile and Amelie returned Tomorrow to Lou, she was probably in her adult form. He just saw her as baby Lou for dramatic effect, and because that's how Sam perceived this moment at the time. In any case, back to the memory, we see Neil escorting Tomorrow in Sam's direction amidst the scenery of their first Tar Anomaly battle, which seems to suggest that all along, his job was to bring Tomorrow back to him. Just like Cliff from the first game, he was never a true antagonist, just someone who was trying to help Sam see the truth. I love the way Kojima and his team use these two characters across these two games. They're almost like Pyramid Head in a way. Their purpose is to guide the protagonist towards something, and when that purpose is served, they die. Once the flashback is over, the adult cryptobiotes, a symbol for Tomorrow if there ever was one, wake up the crew one by one. Sam rises, joy evident in his expression, as he's at last aware of the truth. Tomorrow is the final crew member to awaken, and with tears in her eyes, says that she now remembers everything. The journey they went on across America, and their time together in Mexico. Finally, she says that she's his Luis, and with that, the game ends. But this wouldn't be a Hideo Kojima game if there wasn't more to the story. So after the credits roll, we see what appears to be Australia, but life after people style. Everything looks overgrown and dilapidated, and you can even see the Magellan rusting in the waters. We then see Tomorrow, sitting in the same position Sam was at the beginning of the game. She has Fragile's glove hands around her neck, her hair cut short, and she's wearing a porter's outfit, complete with a BB pod that she uses to carry pictures of those close to her. One of these pictures shows Rainey and her baby, indicating that her still-mother syndrome must have been cured. After smoking a cigarette, Tomorrow repeats Fragile's speech about porters from the beginning of the game, and then walks towards a plate gate in the distance. And following the second round of credits, there's even more. We see Sam's shelter, all fixed up with some baby stuff, which would seem to suggest that someone, maybe Sam, maybe Tomorrow, has kept the place as a bit of a time capsule, a memory of all that happened there. Or perhaps it's meant to show that Tomorrow is now a mother herself and is living there. Could be either one, honestly. Finally, Death Stranding 2's last shot shows us Tomorrow's old BB pod full of aged apples, implying that she has mastered her ability to age things, which she was experimenting with earlier in the game, and Dollman's doll, back in its original form, the way it was when he and his daughter went looking for his wife and found her as a BT. Based on this, I'd say that it seems Dollman's Ka has departed and gone to the afterlife, but how he was able to do this is unclear. All in all, this is an obvious tease for Death Stranding 3, and I'm all for it. I'd love to play a game as Tomorrow. I'm sure her powers, plus the equipment we get from her being a porter, would make for some exciting gameplay. With that said, Kojima claims that although he does have an idea for Death Stranding 3, he has no plans to make it, and that if it ever does get made, he'd love to give the reins to someone else. Surprising as that may seem, given the game's themes, I'd argue that it actually makes a lot of sense. Plus, his next two games are OD and Fizzant, and if it takes him 5 years to make each of those titles, as long as it took him to make both Death Stranding games, then he'll be 71 by the time his schedule is free again. At that point, he'll probably want a well-deserved retirement, meaning that it'd be the perfect time to let someone else take a spin at directing this beautiful game series about human connection. But hey, given the overwhelming positive reviews for Death Stranding 2, I wouldn't be surprised if his plans changed. So let me know if you'd like to play Death Stranding 3, what you think it'd be like, down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Big shout out to all my Silver and Gold tier YouTube channel members and Patreon subscribers, including James Pruitt, Little Caesar, Reed, Pathonian, Anna Novikova, and Sean Bobby, who get early access to these videos thanks to donations of $5 to $10 a month. See you guys next time, and go Birds!